What's up, guys? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with the overall market and give you guys my thoughts on CPI. Just to know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link that's down below or sign up with my QR code that's right over here. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100, you're going to get $20 of free Nvda stock. Deposit $2,000 to get $50 worth. Deposit $10,000 to get $300 worth. Deposit $50,000 to get $1,000 of free Nvidia stock. You also qualify for an 8.1% APY on uninvested cash, so check out my links down below to get these deals. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. So I just want to mention that the market's in a very, very interesting place. We just got CPI data. The numbers were basically, most of them were flat, but of course CPI was hot. And as a result, the market started off with this initial pump, but now we're going to see if this ends up projecting and turning back down, or if we could hold above these high levels. So let's talk about CPI. We just got the CPI numbers. Core CPI month over month was at 0.3%. That is aligned with expectations, but a slight increase compared to before. Core CPI year over year is at 3.1%. That's above expectations, a little bit hot. All items CPI is at 0.2%, the same as before, month over month. And then year over year, we're at 2.7%, the same as before. So what's happening is all items CPI is flat. This is when you account for food and energy. And then without food and energy, this is core CPI. This one's up quite a bit. So keep that in mind. We saw an increase in core CPI. And we're going to see if this continues by the upcoming months or not, and what kind of reaction the stock market is going to get. We did start off with a very, very nice pump, but we're going to see if we get a rejection or not. So you want to be very, very careful. Now, this is making all the headlines right now. Once again, we're seeing an increase in core CPI, but all items CPI is kind of flat for now. Keep in mind that a lot of the tariffs, they were imposed for the month of August. So we're going to see if that ends up affecting prices or not as well. But for the time being, it's only core that saw a bigger increase, whereas all items CPI was kind of flat, at least on a year-over-year basis. There was some good news that came out. As a reminder, President Trump has extended the pause on the Chinese tariffs, or at least the really high Chinese tariffs, up until November 10th, giving them some time to negotiate. But we're going to see what ends up happening moving forward. China is still subjected to about 30% tariffs on a lot of products, but the 100+% tariffs have been delayed again, giving more time for negotiations. So with that being said, we're going to be watching these levels. Okay, so here's my view. If you want to be a bull on SPY, because we basically are starting off with an initial push, but the question is, will we get a big rejection or not? Is this just a liquidity grab? Sometimes, market makers like to grab liquidity before we see much larger moves. Now, if you want to be a bull, if we're going to be bullish after CPI, because once again, the market could be irrational, and sometimes crazy things could happen. If we hold 639 for the 4-hour close, if 639 holds, I think we could be trying to rally for the all-time high. And we're going to try to take out all-time highs if we hold 639. Okay. But on the 4-hour basis, if we can't hold above 639, and if we continue to reject the way we are, so if you look at like the 5-minute time frame, we need to hold above 639. If we can't hold above 639, then I think that this might gap up, and then eventually we could turn back down towards the lows we saw yesterday. We might return to those or below if we can't hold above 639. So I hope that's as clear as possible. That's my view of SPY. This is either going to try to rally more if we hold above 639. If it can't, there could be a big rejection coming. So we'll see how it goes, but keep that in mind. Same thing with the QQQ. Now, with the QQQ, I think we're doing a good job at holding up. In fact, this is closer to all-time highs. And then when you go to the 4-hour time frame, we basically took out the all-time high, right? So, we kind of like grabbed liquidity. So it's really a matter of, do we lose 575 and then fail to reclaim it on a 4-hour basis? Or do we get back above 576 to rally, right? It could be either or. If we hold above 576.5, we could continue to rally for 578, but we need to close above that on the 4-hour basis. On the 4-hour, if we close above that, I think we're looking for essentially 578. But if we can't, If we can't hold 575, there's going to be a risk of us returning towards the lows from yesterday. We might be retesting these lows. There could be a big rejection. So you want to be careful. I think we're going to test 575. We'll have to see if that holds. If not, we could still turn back down. So you want to be careful with that, with SPY, the QQQ, and the others. So keep that in mind. Looking at the IWM, we're also kind of flat here. We start off with a push to 222. Now we need to hold 222 to be bullish. This is a good sign for the IWM. We got to hold 222 to continue this rally for 225. If 222 fails, we could be dipping back down to 220. Keep that in mind. ES is holding up well. The question is, can we hold above 64.25? So like this level right here. If we lose 64.25 on ES, we could be returning back down to the low 6400s. But if we hold above it, we could still try to rally for, once again, the all-time high, right? We could be making new all-time highs on ES. So watch and see, can we hold 64.25 or do we get a big rejection? If it doesn't hold 64.25, we could turn right back down towards the lows. NQ, I think we've almost taken out the highs. We did take out the high. We did touch it. So is this going to be a pivot? It depends. Can we get back above 23,750? If we hold 23,750, so this low right here, this could still try to rally for 23,850. But if 23,750 fails us and we can't hold above it on the 4-hour close, I'm looking for a dip back down to 23,700. At least eventually that's going to likely happen if that ends up being the case. Bitcoin started off with a pump, now it's dipping. Look for a test of 118,000. We're going to see if that fails and if we dip or not. But overall, we're still holding up well. Tesla is doing good. We gapped up, back up to about 347. We need to get back above 347 to remain bullish. If we can't get back above that, we're looking for a move back down towards like the low 340s. So we'll see how well Tesla holds up. I do expect us to gap up, and then we're going to see if it rejects or not. So give this the time it needs. Nvidia pumped and dumped. We're still very flat on Nvidia. We need to get back above 184 to be bullish, but if we can't hold 182.5, there's going to be a risk of us returning to the low 180s, and we're going to see if buyers defend there, so keep that in mind. Appl pumped very nicely towards 228. Basically, if you're above 228, you're looking for an attempt for 230. But if you can't hold above that, you could return to like 225 on Appl, so it might be turning back down. We'll see how well we hold above 228 or not. AMD pumped and dumped. We could be returning back down to like 172, then 169. Coinbase started off with a very, very nice pump. It's capping up. We need to hold above 325 to continue this rally for the 330s. If 325 fails, we could be returning back down towards like 320. So we'll see if that holds or not. Amazon has resistance around this 222 area. If we can't, we need to hold above 222. If we don't, we could be returning back down towards the low 220s. Meta has resistance at 775. We need to once again hold above that. If we don't, there's a gap to fill down here around 767, so be careful. Google also needs to hold above 203. If we do, we're looking for 205. But if 202 fails us, we could be turning back down to like 200 flat. And then Microsoft is showing some weakness. It might be returning to like 520, so be careful with that. The VIX came back down here, but there's this big gap over here. Are we going to see the VIX rally, or is the VIX kind of like consolidate and then try to bounce? It depends. When you look at the 4-hour time frame on the VIX, we're also kind of like stuck like this. There's still technically this like falling wedge. Are we going to test the wedge and break out, or is this just going to continue to crumble? So for now, expect the markets to gap up, and then we're going to see, can we sustain these levels or not, right? On the 5 minutes time frame, is SPY going to lose 638 and start dumping? Or can we get back above 639 and start pushing for the all-time high? It depends. I'm going to be very patient on this one. Watch your levels just to be safe. In all honesty, CPI was flat except for core. Core was a little bit hotter than expected. So are we going to see the market try to rally thanks to this, or is the market going to dump? We'll have to wait and see. But the logical thing to think is that, inflation is sticky and there might be some downside coming at least later on. So we'll see if we get an initial pump first, or if we start like dipping. We'll be very, very patient nonetheless and see what the market ends up doing. Thank you for listening, and peace out.